All right. For the audience that doesn't know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name's Chidester, born in a family of 7 kids, very conservative household. Dad was a teacher, didn't grow up with very much. And at a young age, just had a major drive to make a lot of money and struggled for, say, about 3 years in a row, made about $2,000. And then made my first million and then went on to do about 100 million in 6 years. So pretty crazy story. It was a very fun ride.
So you are now an influencer who has roughly about 430,000 followers or so on Instagram. You have a pretty big account. What was that like building the account, starting from ground zero all the way to where you are now?
Yeah, honestly, most of that growth was from shout outs, paid ads, basically. So, pages would shout me out. So I don't think I have a traditional story. I mostly was focused on money in, money out. If I paid $5,000 here and I made 20, I didn't really care. So I don't think it wasn't terribly hard per se because of how I did it. But I had to be really good at sales and I was running a business. So I guess because I was good at sales, it made it easier, but it actually wasn't that hard because it wasn't super content based. It didn't grow because my content was so perfect and amazing. It was more because of the ROAS we were able to make on the spend.
So talk to me about like the business, the everyday of it, like what are you doing every day, day in, day out?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot over the years. Now I would say I'm mostly just management and leadership. So I'm help managing leaders of the team, and then I'm obviously coming up with a strategy. So a lot of meetings, and then that's mostly it. And when I'm not in meetings, I'm doing content or I'm creating new curriculum or I'm shooting YouTube videos or something of that nature. But it's usually, the number one thing that I think I can do to try to push the company forward to help it grow.
So, like what does your schedule look like? So like every day you're waking up and then you're doing what? You wake up, you gain consciousness, and then what?
Yeah, so 4:30 is when I wake up. I'll head straight to the gym. I'll work out for about 2.5 hours. I know it's a little excessive, but I like to. I do 45 minutes of cardio, about 2 hours of lifting. Then I'll come back. Sometimes I'll do a sauna and a cold plunge. Sometimes I won't. Shower, and then I'll just go straight into work. Usually throughout the day, I'm just going back and forth between stuff. So if I have meetings, I'll take the meetings. And then as soon as I'm done with the meetings, I'll work on the next task, which would be YouTube script or creating a PowerPoint or what have you. Once the day's done, I'll usually be reading or studying Spanish. And then I go to bed and I rinse and repeat and I do it all over again. So that's a typical day. It could change what I do in a normal day, but usually I'm up at 4:30, go to bed around 8:30 or 9. And that works really well for me.
So what are your DMs looking like? Because I know you automate. Do you automate your DMs? I should actually ask that. Do you automate your DMs at all? Because how we met was through a DM that was sent to me.
Yeah, so it depends on if you comment something, that first initial message is automated. After that, though, it's going to be me or someone on my team, right? So I'm in there as much as I can, but obviously if I'm on this call right now, I can't possibly be in there. So I do have help, 100% fully transparent. But the first message, if you comment something, that first message is 100% automated, right? And we just set that up through our software, Elite 360.
I mean, you got, for sure some definitely, whatever you're doing, you got some definitely for sure interesting people that follow you on Instagram, that you networked with. I mean, I can show you right now, there's 26 mutuals. I don't know if you can see it,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of people. Normally I get like 7 or 8, but 26 is a pretty big number. And some of those people include like Justin Wall or Keegan Northrop, who's like the editor for Tommy G. Yeah. Some pretty big guys. So like, what does that networking look like to get that type of following of like real followers, no less?
Honestly, you just got to become someone that they want to associate with. So ultimately, every single day people are DMing people, hey, do you want to go to coffee? Hey, do you want to go to Starbucks? Hey, do you want to go to dinner? And a lot of times they don't because 1, they're busy, and 2, they know you're going to ask for something. So what I found is 1 of 2 things. Well, it's really both, but number 1 is become successful. If you become successful, people will take notice and they want to meet you. I remember I became really good friends with Alex that way. I mean, we still talk, I wouldn't say every day, but we talk quite a bit. And that's how we met. Is he actually reached out to me and wanted to know who I was because of what I was doing. And then number two is the really the best way I've seen is if you create a podcast and you invite people on the podcast, right? And the reason for that is now it's an actual give where they can come on and talk about their story. You promote it to their audience. They get the content. And if you do those two, that to me has been the best thing. You don't need to go to events and like networking parties and all that stuff. You can, but I just think for what you put in and what you get out is very minimal. So that's actually how I've met most of those guys is either A, I've done something that they're, you know, they admire and they want to meet me, or B, I'll have them on a podcast or both. And it kind of grows from there.
I can attest to this. You know, having done this, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the most interesting ones that I ever got a follow from a friend who was on the podcast, who I asked like, "Oh, can I meet this guy?" was actually Andrew Tate's manager.
Nice.
That one was pretty cool. But you know, going from there, you know, what advice do you have for like talking to people? You know, because I've heard that advice of, you know, if you treat somebody like a fan, you're going to get treated like a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just treat them like a regular person. I usually, if I do know who they are, I'll act like I don't. I'm just like, hey, name's Tanner. What's your name? Nice to meet you. Like, I don't want to go in there and treat them like other people. So I just act normal. I'd act how I would around anyone else. I just make sure I'm a little bit conscious of how I'm acting, right? Like, I don't want to get too close to them and like smother them and start asking them a million questions. Just like ask them normal stuff you would do. And that helps build trust. Because at the end of the day, their guards are up because they're expecting you to ask for something. So the way you actually build trust and become friends is don't ask them for stuff. Just consistently give them value, try to help them out, check in on them here and there, whatever. But like, people just don't want to be asked for stuff all the time. They constantly do. So I just try to stay away from that and do the exact opposite.
Yeah, man, completely. And sorry if I sound like a little sick right now. I'm not. I think it was because I was running before and I was breathing heavy. But, you know, with that being said, what is okay to kind of say to somebody when you're talking to people? Because for me, and I met many influencers, like, you know, I'm not someone who's like, oh my gosh, like I'm not like that, at least not anymore, right? It's not like as exciting.
Sure.
So with that being said, if I say to somebody like, hey, you know, I've seen your videos, I'm kind of, you know, I'm a fan, like I like your stuff, like kind of in a calm tone, that's kind of how I would say, like, oh, I saw your stuff, you know, you're kind of funny or something like that. You know, is that okay to say?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't say I'm a fan because, again, you know, you could say that, but I wouldn't really say I'm a fan. I would just say, hey, man, I saw your videos, look great. You're killing it. Like, great job. Something, again, that you're trying to talk to them as an equal. You're not trying to talk to them as if they're above you, right? So if I see someone I respect what they've done, I'm like, hey, dude, seen your stuff. It's really great. Keep it up. You know, how's Miami or wherever I'm seeing them? Yeah, great. You know, I'm not gonna make this big push as if, oh my gosh, like, wow, you're so awesome. Like, I love your stuff, because again, you become a fan. So I just try to treat them as an equal, and whether they, you know, want to accept that or not is totally up to them. But if you want to become friends with these people, you need to talk to them like they're your equal. And if you act like you're beneath them or they're above you, that's how they're going to treat you.
Completely. I mean, you know, one thing Will asked was like, how do compliments kind of fall into that? Because, like, you know, there's a point where a compliment then becomes brown nosing, you know, and at what point does it cross over? Because if I'm just saying, I would say common sense, but most people do not have common sense. So I feel like you got to tell people things. What point is it okay to say, like, you know, is it okay to just go from, you know, oh, I like your stuff to, you know, it's brown nosing. You can't say that. Then you become a fan.
Yeah. Again, I think it's just mostly your tonality, right? So if I meet someone, I say, hey, dude, really like your stuff. Keep it up. Great job. Definitely seen your content a few times. I don't think that's brown nosing. I think it's just like acknowledging them, like, hey, dude, respect your stuff. Great job. And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's great. If you go up to them, you're like, dude, your stuff is so sick. Like, been following you for so long. Wow. Like, again, it's just the tonality of it. So again, I just would treat them like a normal person. Like, if you were talking to your boys or you're talking to your parents, you wouldn't act that way. You just be like, hey, really, really like the new thing you put out, dad, whatever. So again, I just think it's a tonality thing. And, you know, they're just normal people. right? Like these individuals, they have problems, they have ambition, they have goals, they have dreams. They're no different than you, so don't treat them any different. And then that's how you can get in their circles. I just think the wrong thing to do is try to treat them any differently than someone else.
Where do you see most people fail when it comes to networking?
They haven't done anything worth being noticed. You know, I like the, why won't I do coffee with everyone who asks me? Because it's a take, it's not a give. Like there's nothing they're going to be able to tell me or help me with. And it's not that I don't care, don't have, or want to, it's just, I can't do that with everyone, right? There's only a limited amount of time. So they haven't actually become someone worth knowing. And because of that, people don't want to get to know them. And that's just how it works, right? Like ultimately people want to be around like-minded people or people doing similar things. And so if you want that to happen, you have to get on their level or try to get on their level. And I just think a lot of people don't do that.
What do you consider your biggest success?
I mean, I think 9 figures in sales was pretty big. I was pretty proud of that. Honestly though, I would say my first 10K probably felt better because I was coming from such a desperate place and I was so broke. But yeah, I mean, building a company to do 9 figures in sales in 6 years, pretty fast. My first year I only did $1 million. So I covered a lot of ground. And, you know, to stick with something for 6 years is pretty difficult in itself. I had a team of 100. So yeah, I think that's one of my crowning achievements so far. I hope it's, when I die, it's one of the smaller ones. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm proud of.
Where do most people fail in business?
I don't think they learn the skills. They don't learn basic skills. They don't learn how to talk to people in DMs. They don't learn how to take sales calls. They don't learn how to run ads. They have no skills and they don't want to learn the skills. They try to outsource everything because it's easier. So because they have no skills, they're never a good business owner, because the whole point of becoming a good business owner is you have to have skills, and a lot of skills. So I just think most people, they don't learn them. They don't want to learn them. They make an excuse not to learn them. And they never really get their business off the ground because they don't put in the work. It's like trying to be a bodybuilder, but not wanting to diet or not wanting to lift weights. It just doesn't work. So more times than not, when I'm working with clients or I'm working with business owners, it's one of two things. It's a tactical issue, so they're not good at the skills. Higher level business owners, it's a strategy issue. And the reason it's easier to get higher level business owners results is because they have the tactical skills to implement the new strategy.
Are there any cheat codes when it comes to running a business?
No, it's just, I wish there's not. You just got to put in the work. The closest thing you can get to a cheat code is a good offer, a unique business model that not a lot of people do with low competition. But in terms of, you know, cutting the work or cutting corners, there is none. It's like you have to make sales. How do you get sales? You get it organically or paid ads. How do you do that? You learn the skills. You become a big content creator like Mr. Beast, or, you know, as big as you can get, or you run a lot of paid traffic like me, or both. And it's just a skill game, right? There's no cutting corners. You either can put in the work and stick with it until you succeed, or most people, they start and then at some point they quit when they've had enough.
How do you move forward when you want to quit?
I mean, for me, it's actually not that hard. I just ignore how I feel. I think most people, they constantly think they have to feel good or they have to be in a good mood or whatever. I mean, I just don't really buy into that, because you have some control over how you feel, but sometimes you just wake up and you don't feel good, or sometimes you just didn't sleep good or whatever. So I just really focus on my inputs. The inputs are, what do I need to do today to move the needle forward? And the outputs will take care of themselves.
What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
I would have dropped out of school. I would have not gone to college, and I would have hired a coach sooner. The biggest thing was just getting mentors, right? I didn't know anything about business. I didn't understand business. I didn't know how to get a mentor or find a mentor. And at 22, I started realizing there was people who could help me, that I could pay. And I waited till I was 25 to pay people. And from 22 to 25, I made $2 grand. And from 25 to 31, I made 100 million. So I'm not saying if you hire someone, you're going to do 100 million. But what I am saying is I was my own worst enemy, because I wasn't developing myself. with the skills that I needed to win. And as soon as I learned the skills, obviously I have a really good work ethic. So you put good work ethic with skills, you can become really rich.
Should people follow their passion?
I think your passion becomes what works. You know, if you're good at baseball, passion is now baseball. If you're good at basketball, your passion is now basketball. You need to follow the money. And then I think that becomes your passion, or follow the money. And then when you have enough money, then you can go do your passion for free. But sometimes your passion is not what you're good at. You know, if you're 5'5", you can try to play in the NBA, but it's going to be tough sledding. So to me, sometimes those things can be the same. Your passion can also be an opportunity, but a lot of times I just would look for the opportunity, and then you either will have that turn into your passion because you're being successful with it, or you'll have so much success that you can retire or stop, and now you can enjoy your passion, right? If you're 5'5", you're better playing basketball for free than trying to play it paid, right? And so I think a lot of people, you can start with like an interest or something you think you're good at, but you know, I don't necessarily have a passion for, let's say, software, but I'm building a software right now that I think can make a lot of money. And I'm sure as it makes a lot of money, I'll enjoy it because I like growing businesses. So my passion is growing businesses. It's not what type of business is it, if that makes sense.
100%. What do you think is an underrated skill?
Leadership. Ultimately, the business is as good as your team. So at the highest levels of business, when they're big, right? Let's say at least 100 team members, your business is only as good as your team. So if you could only have one skill, the only skill that you would need is to assemble a team, right? So if I was a coach in the NBA and hypothetically we could pick players, the best team would have the best players, right? So it comes all down to leadership, hiring, managing, training, that type of stuff. And really, it is not even hiring, managing, and training. It's just hiring the right individuals, and then they can do all the work. So I think that's a very underrated skill. Yes, having sales skills and marketing, all that stuff in the beginning is helpful, but at the highest levels of the game, it's leadership.
What advice do you have for young people?
I mean, start investing in yourself as soon as you can. Whether it's, you know, free stuff on udemy.com, or I think it's like 10, 20 bucks. You go to allison.com, you need to start learning skills that actually pay you money. Most of the stuff in school is a waste of time. The best training I got in school was K through 6th grade. Reading, writing, arithmetic, grammar, keyboard. After 6th grade, honestly, I haven't used any of that stuff. It's like, and you know, to each their own. If you're going to get a degree, that's fine. But if you want to start a business, most of that stuff is a waste of time. Learn skills around coding, learn skills around copywriting, learn sales, learn marketing, learn ads, learn something that the marketplace actually cares about. You know, the quadratic equation, nobody cares, right? Unless you're an engineer. And even engineers, right? They're getting a degree and they plug in the formula into a computer. I studied engineering. So I would just invest in yourself as soon as possible. Mentorship, coaches, courses, free stuff, whatever, but learn skills that will help you make more money. And even if you don't want to start a business, if you know how to sell or do marketing or ads, right, you can go work in a company and get paid a lot more by knowing those skills. But if you just go out into the workforce and you don't know anything and you just have a degree, I mean, I've never looked at someone's degree one time that I've hired on my company, not once, because I don't care. Because I don't care what your degree is. I just want to know if you can do the thing I need you to do.
Where do you think schools fail the most?
They just teach you irrelevant stuff, right? Like school would have been great if they taught me investing or taxes or, you know, any of the stuff I've learned in business. They just teach a bunch of irrelevant things that have nothing to do with the real world. So again, if you need the degree, if you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, yeah, great. But for everyone else, it's a waste of time. And the reason it's a waste of time is the skills are irrelevant to the real world.
What are the top 5 skills right now that somebody can make money with?
Oh, I just did a video on this. I would say easy ones, right? So like you can be a social media manager, $1 to $2 grand a month, local businesses, super simple. You could write emails for businesses, $1 to $2 grand a month, super simple. Obviously, like I'm a huge proponent of coaching. It's like different types of coaching I've seen be really successful is like day trading, fitness coaching. What was the other one I was going to say? Career coaching is crazy. I see people blow it up with that. Now, those ones are like, you'd have to learn those skills, obviously, right? But I think the two first ones I said, those are some very easy ones where if you just learn some simple graphic editing, designing, you can use social media for a lot of local businesses. And if you just learn how to write copy, you can just go send emails for people. And at $1 to $2 grand a month, you don't have to do anything crazy. You just got to send out the emails. So I think those would be really great skills for most people, and it's pretty low effort and it doesn't take a lot of time. So I think those would be probably the best skills you could learn. Like if it's a one-off skill, I'd say those two would be great. And then obviously coaching, those are the types of industries I would go in if I was a coach. But I think that probably didn't answer your question because it was a few more skills that they'd have to learn.
How does one get rich quick?
I mean, honestly, the way I did it, you pick something that you can sell for a high price, you figure out paid ads, and then you spend as much money as fast as you can, and you get rich pretty quick. It's just money in, money out. There's a lot of ways to get rich, but that's how I got rich. You know, so people will ask me, how did you make so much money so fast? Well, once something's working, if I just put more money behind it and I get more leads and more sales faster and faster and faster, then the difference between, you know, a rich person and a poor person is the time frame they make the money in. If you make $1 million over your lifetime, it's not nearly as impressive as $1 million in a month. So that's really the way you do it, is as long as you can get enough eyeballs for cheaper than what it costs you to acquire the customer, and you make money on that, you can be infinitely wealthy. And that's really just the name of the game in business.
What advice do you have for young people in general?
Yeah, I would go back to saying they just need to invest in themselves early on. They need to learn skills. So, you know, if I could go back in time, I would have not gone to college. I would have done door-to-door sales at 18 years old. After I did door-to-door, I would have probably started working in a company and done sales. Maybe I learned some different skills along the way, and then I would have started my business sooner. You know, one of the reasons building a business is so great is all the skills you have to learn. It forces you to. You have to figure stuff out. And that's the benefit, right? And as you learn more skills, you become more valuable to the marketplace. So like find high paying skills and learn those at a young age. And you'll thank yourself later, because when you're older and you're in your mid 20s, you might be making what some people don't make in their 30s and 40s because you invested in yourself early on. And I'd also focus in your 20s. There's really no point in running around chasing girls and doing a bunch of dumb shit. I mean, to each their own, but I would much rather sacrifice my 20s to live a great life in my 30s, which is what I'm doing now. Some people do it the opposite, is they live a great life in their 20s, but then they have to build it up in their 30s. And, you know, it's more fun when you have more money because you can do more shit. When you're 20 and you're broke and you're backpacking across the world and living in hostels, I mean, yeah, maybe that's fun, but to me, that's not as fun as you can fly first class and stay in the nicest hotels and do the best activities. So I would just stay focused and really build yourself up, especially the young men. Like stay focused, don't go sideways with girls, don't do stupid shit, and try to like build yourself. And then when you're at an older age, not only will you enjoy it more, I think, because you'll have more money, but you'll have more opportunity. You'll have better girls who will want to be with you, and you'll have better opportunities to have higher level friends. And, you know, a lot of times when you're 18 and you're just coming out of high school, like that's the last time everyone's on the same level. Everyone starts going their own way. And I see a lot of people waste a lot of time with people that aren't really going anywhere in life. And then they look back later and regret it because they spent all their time on people that weren't going anywhere. Like if you can build yourself early on, later down the road, you'll meet people who actually wanted to go somewhere and built their life.
With that being said, what advice do you have for lazy people?
Yeah, don't be lazy. I think if you're very, very talented, you can get away with it. I played with a lot of football players who were very lazy, but very talented. And some of them went to the NFL, but it's not normal, right? And they're the exception, not the rule. If you don't learn how to work hard, I think your chance of success goes down tremendously because you're banking on the fact that your skills are way better than everyone else. I've always had the mindset that I'm not the most talented, but I'll work the hardest. And for me, the way I've been able to do that is I just think about the life I want to live and who I want to be. And I would much rather try and fail than not try and succeed. And there's just no reward for not trying. You just have regret. You don't accomplish anything meaningful. Average life is an average life. You do average things, you get average results. So to me, if you want an extraordinary life, then by the definition, it must be hard. So I want to do hard things.
Why are so many people lazy nowadays?
I couldn't tell you, man. I don't know. I don't really relate. I don't think that way. Maybe because life's gotten too easy. You know, a couple hundred years ago, we didn't have cell phones, Wi-Fi, grocery stores, and like just life is so easy now. So maybe because it's so easy, it just makes people not want to try or not push or innovate. I don't know, but the way I was raised is just not a thing. My dad was a teacher. My mom stayed at home. There were 7 kids. We were working from a very young age to help make money for the household. And so I grew up thinking it was normal. And then when I got older, I saw lazy people and I couldn't understand or relate. And I think it's mostly because of my upbringing.
What are the biggest way to cut costs?
What are the what? I'm sorry?
What's the biggest way to cut costs?
Like just living expenses?
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I just moved home. That's the biggest one. Move home or go to a homeless shelter or find a friend. I would have gotten a homeless shelter if my parents said no. I really would. I was at that breaking point. So I was paying $3,000 of rent. I went home to my parents. We agreed on $1,000. And then I was able to take $2,000 a month and invest it back into my business and my ads, my marketing, my advertising. Outside of that, I just got rid of all the dumb stuff. No dinners, no friends, no dates, no dumb shit. And that's not how you're going to get rich. But when you're starting out, you need to cut expenses as much as possible so you can spend as much time as possible on the tasks that will make you more money instead of stressing out, working on deadbeat jobs that are just going to pay the bills. But I always tell people, don't go out, focus, don't party, don't do any of that stuff. Just go home, live at your parents or wherever you need to go and start. And you can build something great from that. And that's what I did. And I have no regrets. I really don't. I look back and I'm very proud of that decision. It's totally worth it. I went through some very hard years, but now, I'm in my young 30s and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And so that's the trade-off. And that's not for everyone. You don't have to live life my way. I'm not saying I do it the right way, but to me, that's the way to do it.
There's been a common question now of people that feel like they don't want to become an underlived 30-year-old and they don't want to become an what's it called? They don't want to become an underlived 30-year-old or an underworked 30-year-old, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the question is basically relative to saying, I don't want to work all through my 20s, and never have lived my life. But, on the other hand, I also don't want to have nothing by the time I'm 30. So, what's your stance on that?
I mean, to each our own, right? I mean, you can do whatever you want, but to me, sacrificing your 20s when you have low skill, most people don't know what they're doing with their life. Like if you're a male, girls don't want to date young guys. They like older guys. They like guys who are established. They like guys who know. So there's really not a lot of stuff in your 20s that's actually a massive benefit other than your energy and your youthfulness. So to me, it's like when you're the youngest and you feel the best, you should work the hardest. And now that I'm getting older, I have a lot of money and I can do whatever I want. That to me it's like, wouldn't you rather just give up 10 years and then you can do whatever you want the rest of your life? Or would you rather have a lot of balance and then basically your whole life you're doing kind of both? I can do stuff that 99% of people can't do. And so again, I might be biased obviously because that's what I chose, but it also depends at what level you want to do. For me, I don't need that much stuff. I can go out to dinner once a week and I'm good. Or I can go on a vacation for 3 or 4 days, 4 times a year. Some people, they think they need, every weekend off and all this type of stuff. And I just don't resonate with that because someone out there is going to be willing to do more than you. So again, I might be the unpopular opinion, but when I look back on my life, I want to have no regrets. I think I have to put in a lot of effort. And if I don't put in that effort, I'm certainly going to have regrets.
All right. I think that's a good place to end off. Any final words to the audience?
No, man, just thanks for having me. And, for anyone listening, my biggest piece of advice, just invest in yourself, whether it's free or paid or whatever, just invest in yourself and learn skills. And that's the path to riches. You just have to become a valuable person, and it's going to be uncomfortable and it won't be fun. And you're going to have days you're going to doubt yourself or probably want to quit, but it's cliche, but if you just don't quit, you won't fail. And I really stand by that statement. So thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll talk for a little bit after the show. All right. In 3, 2, 1.